Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining the webinar. We are expecting a rather large crowd today, and I see some people that are still popping in, so we're going to give it just maybe another 60 seconds before we get started. Thanks again for joining us. Welcome to our webinar with Sage AP Automation, Eliminate Friction in Your Accounts Payable Workflow. This is Jody Patterson, Director of Client Development for Oasis Solutions. I'd also like to introduce and recognize Philana Callahan, who is our Marketing Manager and who makes it possible for us to bring this content and webinar to you today. Thanks a lot, Philana. She's in the background and going to be monitoring as we go along. Next slide. I think we're there. Okay, so I recognize quite a few of the attendees today, but for those of us joining us for the first time, I'll give a brief overview of who we are and what we do here at Oasis Solutions. Just some basic background statistics. We were founded in 1991, so we do have 31 plus years of experience in the software space. Our consulting team is made up of CPAs, former CFOs, MBAs, et cetera. So I think that's important to note that we don't just know software, we know business and processes, as well as accounting and software. And I think that really just brings an extra flavor to our team to have that kind of experience on our consulting team. We are headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky, although about half of us are spread across the US. The other half are kind of centrally based around Louisville, Kentucky. And that is also where the bulk of our clients lay, kind of regionally based in the Louisville, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, West Virginia, et cetera, areas. But as you can see from the graphic on screen, we do have over 500 clients spread across the US in 36 states today. Still waiting to get that first client in Hawaii so that I can go do an on-site. I'm really looking forward to that happening. Also on the screen, you can see some of our recognitions and awards. We have been awarded Best Places to Work in both Louisville and Kentucky for a number of years in a row now, as well as nationally ranked on Bob Scott's top 100 bars for the past 4 years running. Next slide. So before we get started, I do want to remind everyone that you can ask questions at any time. Please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen rather than asking questions in the chat window. If you have technical difficulties or want to communicate with one of us directly, please use the chat. Otherwise, questions should go into the Q&A window, and we'll address those at the end of the webinar. Now, to introduce your presenter for today, please welcome Tina Fan, Account Executive Team Lead at Sage AP Automation. She works with clients to better understand their AP workflow with the goal in mind of minimizing the time our clients spend on each step. Tina, take it away.
Thanks, Jody. It's a pleasure to be presenting today, and welcome everyone. So for today's webinar, we're going to cover common practices that cause friction in the 4 accounts payable workflows. Firstly, we'll quickly go over a study we ran last year. Then we'll go into 4 key modules of AP, purchase orders, invoices, payments, and expenses. We're going to explain how you can simplify these processes by adopting automated and non-automated solutions. Towards the end, we'll give you a peek into the AP automation platform. And again, please feel free to use the Q&A function on the screens at any time during the webinar, and we'll answer those questions at the end. To start off, let's look at some research we conducted last year. For the State of Accounts Payable study, we surveyed 600 finance professionals working in accounts payable and leadership positions in North America for companies that employ 100 to 5,000 staff. Of those 600 finance professionals surveyed, 83% said that AP automation is the top investment priority for their business. 83%. That stat shows how much ROI and value AP automation provides, and companies are making it a top priority. So what were some of the biggest concerns expressed by finance teams in the study? The number one concern for finance teams during the pandemic has been the risk of fraud and abuse. The economic upheaval led to a flurry of unusual financial transactions, expedited orders, change of banking information, and new payment methods. An urgent request that might have raised eyebrows in the past might not seem so alarming under the current crisis. Part of the problem is the continued reliance on paper, resulting in delays in processes such as payments. Without digital access to AP and remote capabilities, most accountants were forced to go to the office during the pandemic. The other big concern is overtime in accounting. Respondents mentioned they've been working extra hours since March of 2020. Between agonizing over closing a month or getting financial reports ready, finance professionals have several reasons for working overtime. We'll take a deeper dive into each of these. Addressing the first challenge, fraud and abuse. 79% of companies who have implemented AP automation say they are effective at flagging potentially fraudulent billing and/or payments. Sage AP automation helps customers reduce risk with features like automated approval routing. Next, paper-based processes can be eliminated with automation. With Sage AP automation, 82% of data entry can be automated by using the OCR, optical character recognition technology. And regarding the issue of finance employees working overtime, 76% of companies that have implemented AP automation report increased productivity and less overtime for the accounting team. Now that we've talked about some of the challenges AP teams face, I wanted to run a quick poll. So we're going to pop it up on your screens there if you can take a moment to quickly fill in. In the past few months, what has been your biggest AP challenge? Please select one from the following options. All right, we'll give everyone a couple more seconds here to fill that out. Okay, perfect. How about we share the results and let's take a look at it together. Okay, so it looks like the top identified challenge for the group today is identifying and managing errors. Completely understandable, especially if it is all manual, you're entering information manually by hand into the computer. There's room for errors, there are typing mistakes and so on. Following that, data entry and coding, definitely. So that's one of the mundane tasks of AP, of course, calculating or coding all that information from the bill. Following that, we've got, so the last three are pretty much tied. We've got approval process follow-up, late payments, and lack of remote accessibility. So absolutely can resonate with that, especially with the pandemic. Like we mentioned earlier, a lot of these accountants and finance professionals mentioned that they didn't really have the means to work remotely, so they had to continue to go in the office. All right, thanks everyone so much for participating in that first poll there. Moving on from the research, let's get into the first accounts payable module, purchase orders. Some of the biggest concerns within this workflow have been around a manual-heavy procurement process. The problem is that most businesses rely on an informal requisition process where employees create their own shortcuts or systems making it hard for accounting teams to track spend. Some businesses do not even have a requisition process to lean on. This leads to lack of visibility into information such as open purchase orders or unapproved purchases, which can disrupt other tasks like month-end close. Without a formal requisition process, employees can procure goods and services without the appropriate approvals. So how do we fix this without using an AP automation software? First of all, it's crucial to establish a formal requisition process with PO forms. This means that the purchasing staff must issue a purchase order for every purchase made by a company. Once a formal requisition process has been laid out, you can match invoices to purchase orders. And lastly, create an approval network to manage departmental spend. The process should require employees to complete a purchase requisition form, which must be approved by their department manager. By doing so, the department manager is taking responsibility for each purchase and understands that the cost of this purchase will be charged against his or her department's budget. If you want to take a step further, you can also consider an automated requisition process. Some of the benefits include customized purchasing and spending limits that ensure the spend is within policy. Companies can create a formal purchasing process that controls who is able to buy what and how much money they can spend. They can set limits based on department, project, vendor, or set manager budgets to control unapproved purchases. In addition, it eliminates double data entry by automatically matching purchase orders to invoices. You can preview budget and forecasts through a central dashboard and measure how this area, along with payments, invoices, and expenses, are contributing to your overall financial growth. Now, we'll quickly go over a customer story. So prior to implementing PO automation with Sage AP automation, DreamPack did not have a system to track a purchase order against an invoice. Walid Gamay says, the automation piece is critical. I think if we hadn't had a software to track POs, we would have had multiple hurdles, whereas now everyone's involved in checks and balances. With Sage AP automation, all information that I need is right there. I have 100% transparency. Now moving on to the next workflow, invoices. The pandemic brought about a rapid switch to remote work, but manual processes hindered staff's ability to function while being fully remote. Research showed that finance teams had to visit the office during the pandemic to complete tasks like obtaining invoices or pulling paper files. Businesses experiencing slow invoice processing are often stuck with manual data entry and the errors arising out of the need to update the same data in multiple systems. The usage of informal approval channels, such as emails and paper, which is also a major contributor to slow invoice processing cycles. And with manual intervention involved in every step, it gets difficult to spot duplicate invoices. One report found that 63% of businesses had received duplicate invoices, of which 33% had actually paid them. Now, let's see how we can tackle these challenges without using an AP automation software. To better manage manual data entry and reduce errors, you can install OCR technology to capture invoice data. Solutions that target document management can help you speed up invoice approvals. And if your goal is to shift away from paper-based systems, you can use tools such as Paperbase or PaperSave that help accounting teams reduce their reliance on paper, files, and cabinets. While these systems support different areas of invoice processing, an AP automation software will target all these challenges through a central platform. Here's how. AP automation uses AI-powered data capture to extract invoice details such as amount, due date, invoice date, vendor name, description, unit cost, and quantities. It will automatically flag duplicate invoices in the system, so you don't have to worry about tracking them manually. Automated platforms also come with internal approval systems, which allow you to track the entire approval chain in real time, from when it was sent for approval, how long it stayed in the approver's inbox, when they requested for backup data, to the date and time it was finally approved. In the case of a golf club called Minnetonka Club based in Minnesota, they were experiencing interruptions in completing routine AP tasks. Everything was done manually, requiring hours of data entry and leading to huge stacks of paperwork and filing cabinets, which were hard to keep track of. 15 people were approving invoices each month, running into delays. This made it difficult to catch duplicates. And a big issue was that all financial documents were sent with sensitive information were on paper and stored in a physical facility. What was crucial for this club's AP team was taking back some control over their financial processes, including tackling issues such as duplicate invoices. With AP automation, the golf club was able to spot $10,000 in overpayments, including credits and duplicate payments. And using Sage AP automation, managers can use the web and mobile app to approve documents online. All right, next, we're going to unpack the payments workflow, which was significantly affected by the pandemic. Many organizations are still experiencing challenges caused by a low cash flow economy, supply chain disruptions, change in vendor payment preferences, remote conditions, and more. But in our recent State of AP study serving the 600 finance professionals across North America, we found 3 areas within payments that were severely impacted. Let's take a look. The first challenge, and perhaps one that most accounting teams can relate to, is late payments. On average, businesses in North America took as long as 58 days to pay vendors and suppliers in the first quarter of 2021. This was up by 5.5% from the first quarter in 2020, where the average payment period was 55 days. It'll be interesting to see how that number changes this year. The next concern is the remote access to payment-based processes. 57% of 600 businesses were unable to make payments while working remotely last year. We could assume that reliance on traditional or paper-based processes were to blame. While keeping the financial engine running, accounting teams also have to be aware of the sophisticated scams targeting companies of all sizes. We've seen a flurry of unusual financial transactions, again, expedited orders, change of banking information, and new payment methods during this time of uncertainty. An urgent request that might have raised eyebrows in the past might not seem so alarming during the pandemic, making it hard for AP teams to identify signs of fraud. Even the most experienced teams can run into these roadblocks. So, how do we make sure this doesn't happen at your organization? Consider introducing these practices into your payments routine to make them more secure and efficient. You can separate the approval chain for invoices and payments. By separating roles for approvals and payments, you reduce the chances for funds to be rerouted or otherwise misappropriated. If late or missed payments are your primary area of concern, it might be beneficial to explore third-party payment solutions, such as InvoicePay, which tracks, updates, and maintains payment data for their customer suppliers. They manage vendor data for you and also take 100% liability for payments. Next, you could also start using a bank change form to initiate changes in vendor banking details. When a vendor asks for their bank details to be changed, You should always ask 2 or 3 questions to confirm the legitimacy of the request. For example, when was their last payment date or the last invoice amount? And last but not least, train your staff on how to identify signs of fraud. For instance, your team should be trained on how to detect phishing emails, invoices that don't have vendor information, such as an address or a phone number, or vendors that don't use a business email address, and instead use free email providers such as Gmail, Outlook, etc. Now, while these changes are a good practice to implement, you could definitely enjoy additional fraud protection with automated tools. Automated payments simplify a bulk of your payments-based worries. First and foremost, you can pay your vendors in their preferred method of payment, whether that's ACH, EFT, virtual card, or even paper checks. You can also automatically route payments to approvers and leave the software to do the chasing for the reminders and follow-ups. And to help combat the risk of fraud, solutions like Sage AP Automation provide an approval matrix that can be customized based on amount, department, vendor, and etc. In the case of AIR, an organization for institutional researchers on college, universities, and campuses, they were experiencing some major challenges within their AP department. The team was storing documents inside physical boxes, and this was causing significant issues in a number of areas. The invoice to payment processing was a week-long process. Payments were handled manually. On a typical day, an AP clerk would enter the invoices and forward it to the director for review. After approval, checks would be printed and given to the CFO for signature. Then the checks were scanned, put in envelopes, and mailed. The other issue was that documents often got lost between the back and forth with coworkers, and recovering these documents became a challenge during events like audit season. And that's where Sage AP Automation came in. The software moved the AP cycle into the cloud and replaced paper with automation. As a result of using our platform, the organization has been able to fast track the AP process. They're now spending only 2 to 3% of their day on payments related tasks. And more than 50% of vendors have moved to electronic payment methods such as ACH. Time spent filing also has been saved. The annual tradition of hauling 3 or 4 boxes per year over to the storage room has finally come to an end. And instead of having to go through office file cabinets to secure documentation, employees now have access to all information through a convenient centralized system, anywhere and anytime. Now, before we jump onto the next section of expenses, we're going to do another quick poll. And we're going to pop this up on the screen just to get an understanding of what is your primary method of payment. So are we still doing paper checks, ACH? Are we doing wires, credit card, or how do we pay? And we'll give everyone a minute or so to complete this poll, and we appreciate your participation. All right. Perfect. And now let's take a look at the results and see what we've got on the line here. Okay, there we go. So it looks like the majority of us are still issuing paper checks, which is definitely the most traditional and the common method that we see. And then we've got, following that, about a third of us are doing ACH and EFT. So we've moved from paper checks to a digital format of payment. And then finally, we've got some of us doing wire transfers as well. All right, thanks for everyone's participation. So that's super helpful to know, just to see, get engaged and see, what Everyone is still working with, I mean, a lot of people are still sending out checks, as we've mentioned, but transforming that payment process really helps when you have more control over it, whether that be, sending electronic payments, wires, using credit card, and so on. All right, now we're going to talk about expenses. So expense management has evolved, and expense policies for the remote work era look very different than what they used to in the pre-pandemic world. The issue with a traditional way of managing expenses and reimbursing employees is that it's time-consuming. Sifting through stacks of paper receipts to verify the details takes up valuable time each month. Moreover, filing and processing receipts involve too many steps like printing, scanning, coding, etc. It's why 45% of CFOs say minimizing the administrative burden in expense processing is their #1 priority. The next challenge is reducing the risk of expense abuse. Last year, 62% of businesses encountered out-of-policy expenses. With so much intricacy involved in manually managing day-to-day expenses, it becomes hard to maintain data accuracy, which often leads to errors. Now, according to the Global Business Travel Association, on average, 1 in every 5 expense reports contain an error. There are a few practices that can help with these flaws. So first, you can start by managing expenses through a document management software. This type of software lets you upload documents, such as receipts, and include basic approval workflows. Second, document an expense policy that fits your remote and hybrid work setting and get it signed by employees. You could also design a questionnaire based on the policy to ensure all employees understand it. Finally, digitize receipts immediately after receiving them for secure access, so you won't have to worry about them getting damaged, misplaced, or lost entirely at a later date. Automated expense management gives your business the tools to dynamically engage with employees. It accelerates expense management and reimbursement by allowing employees to submit expense reports through web or mobile app for reimbursements. Once approved by the manager, the AP team can reimburse them electronically. You can also flag expenses that exceed your set limits. These can be customized based on factors such as department, budget, role, etc., giving you greater control and visibility over employee spend. With automated expenses, you can also eliminate double data entry by mapping expense categories directly to your existing GL codes, saving your accounting team time and resources. So a lead vice president of operations at DreamPack, a beverage manufacturer, describes the company's expense automation experience with Sage AP Automation, saying employees can take a picture of their receipts and submit them online through the mobile app. The approver gets a notification, and once signed off, the AP team reimburses the employee electronically. All data is stored within the system so that they can always go back to audit reports. All expenses are in one place, it's comprehensive, and we have access to all historical data. The finance solutions contributing to growth in the remote work era are 360-degree dedicated accounts payable platforms. These systems have all of the account payable workflows in one place to ensure all the necessary information is accurate and available in real time. When searching for an AP automation software, look for a solution that ties in all functions in one central platform. Purchase orders, invoices, payments, and expenses. That's how we do it here at Sage AP Automation. All AP processes and data are stored in one system. This means no loose spreadsheets and random software shared by individual departments. Information flows seamlessly across all workflows and into your financial ERP. providing a smooth AP experience for all accounting staff, whether they're working from the office, home, or anywhere else. All right, so now we're going to head into the system itself for a quick product demonstration so you can see how Sage AP automation works. Okay, now understanding that, so we'll do a quick overview of the system, but of course, if you'd like to learn more, please, give us a shout after. But for today's purpose, I'll quickly run through just the user experience, the overall look and the feel of the system, and the overall features of our modules here. So on the left-hand side here, we do have 4 main modules, as we mentioned, from expense reimbursement, expense reporting, purchase orders, so the creating of requisitions, invoices, and payments. And the platform itself flows from top, bottom, or left to right at the top. The center of the screen here is the workspace, and down below, this is where we'll map out the organizational structure. So whether that means you have one company or you're operating several companies, we can integrate with all of them and have them mapped below. Even further, we can segment by department, branches, divisions, locations, whatever you'd like. And you'll see here as I navigate between the different modules, the experience of the system stays the same. And the only thing that really changes was the color. So we've designed the system this way to make training fast and easy. Once you've learned one of the modules, you should have a pretty good understanding of how the rest of the system works. All right, so a quick high level of the purchase order module. Again, we do have a platform that allows employees to create their requisitions directly from here. So they'd be able to fill out the details such as vendor, descriptions of what they're hoping to purchase, code it to a department or branch if needed. And then ultimately, we'll create a visual of that request. So it'll look something like this. And you could also attach, backup documents such as a proposal, a contract, or agreement with the vendor, and then go ahead and submit this off for a purchase order approval. Now, as mentioned earlier, we can define approvals based on any type of rule, really, whether that's based on the value, based on the vendor, the accounts that they're coded to. And for the approver experience, we'll send them automatic emails to remind them that they have requisitions to review and approve here. And you can simply do it from the screen. And then once approved, everything flows here to the committed level. So giving you that centralized place to view all purchase orders that have been approved, so you can properly forecast and report to see what exactly is coming in. You'll notice a couple columns here or details on the screen. So as invoices are coming in matching to these purchase orders, we'll draw from the PO, show you what's been drawn, what is remaining, and the total of that. And then ultimately, they'll pretty much get electronically filed away. So we do keep a backup of all of the data of the purchase orders that have gone through the system. Now, when it comes to invoices, there are 2 primary ways to get an invoice into our system. First being electronic forwarding to the email address that we'll set you up with. And second being the upload of scanned files. Now, if you're still receiving invoices by mail, you would simply just upload all the scanned invoices here. And you can treat this page as like your Adobe splitter or PDF editor, where there are a few actions at the top that you can quickly click that will help you separate and organize this batch. So eliminating the time that your staff is spending on separating these into separate files as they're scanning them or putting blank pages in between everything. You can quickly scan them all together, dump them onto the screen here, and quickly organize. And you'll see if you have multi-page invoices, you can just drag and drop as well to organize them together. Once they've been organized, we'll hit save and create, and it'll meet us here in the work queue. Now, this is where the OCR, AI, and data capture takes place. as we are pulling fields off of the invoice for you. Now that includes the header information, so like your vendor, invoice number, the date, as well as the subtotals, totals, and taxes, and we'll match it up to any existing purchase orders as well. So instead of going to separate filing cabinets or document systems and pulling the PO, matching it to the invoice manually, you'll see it all appear on the screen here. So you can quickly compare, review it for the details, and then submit it off for approval. Now, just to speak to the integration a little bit when it comes to our platform and Sage, we are directly integrated, meaning that all of the fields and lists that you're seeing in our platform will be pulled directly from your file. So these are vendors from your Sage file, accounts from your Sage file. If you have departments, branches, or you have many segment codes in your segments of your GL codes, that will all be reflected here as well. Now, once we've reviewed it, we'll submit it for approval. And again, the approval experience remains the same, whereas the managers, as we're reviewing these, looking at these documents, you can see them all on the same screen, see any backup pages if they were assigned, and then simply approve or reject. Again, when it comes to the notifications, we'll take care of that follow-up for you. So if you have anyone in the company or organization who may be a bottleneck, we'll notice that. We'll be able to identify if they have approved or not, and we'll continue to bug them until they do. And then, of course, if anything is going to be rejected, we will require that they leave some type of comment indicating why it's rejected. Comments will all be logged here and sent back to your AP professional to make any adjustments as needed. Finally, after everything has been reviewed in here, we've matched them up to the purchase orders, got the approvals on both ends. We'll take all of this invoice data and export it into Sage itself. So this data populates over to Sage into your AP as an unposted batch. So it pretty much appears as if you've done the manual coding yourself. And then finally, archived here is the exact same as we've seen in closed, where we are keeping a history of all of the invoices. So you do get a storage of everything here for 7 years, or we could extend that if you need longer, but everything is completely searchable. You could type in, an invoice number, vendor name, date, any data point really, and we'll quickly pull down the invoices that match that criteria. So you, instead of running to the filing cabinets or those boxes of paperwork, scanning through the different pages and flipping through all the paper, you can quickly just pull it up on your screen. Similarly, on the left-hand side here, you could also create filters. So when it comes to audits, for example, you could filter all invoices by vendor, by GL account it's being coded to, date ranges, really however you'd like to define it. And then we'll highlight the bubble here, narrow down the results that match this criteria. And you'll have the option to run a PDF or a CSV report. Okay, so that's how invoices and purchase orders map up together. And I'll quickly run through the payments process, but you'll see it follows the exact same pattern as we've covered earlier. As again, we've designed it that way to make the tool as user-friendly and easy to train when you are adopting a platform like this. So once the invoices have been exported, they also flow down here to create. And think of this as your aging list, where you're able to select which invoices you're ready to pay. Let's say these guys. You'll see selected total, select is here, outstanding displays as well. Once we've selected these, they'll move on over to the next screen. And at this level, we're really just defining how to pay this bill. So the current methods that we support include physical checks. So if your vendors prefer it, we can mail out a check on your behalf. So at least it eliminates the paperwork and the manual work on your end. We can also support your electronic payments, so your ACH, wires, and virtual credit card. Once we've defined the payment, we'll go ahead and submit this for approval. So again, similar to the other two modules as we've covered, you'll notice that you can build approvals in each section, and we can definitely involve different people for each as well. So at the approving screen, it looks exactly the same. You'll see all the details from the initial PO to the invoice and to the payment. Finally, we'll release them from our system. So actually sending out the ACH or the check to your vendor along with a remittance. And then finally, this paid should really be called export because that's exactly what's happening here. We're also taking this data and exporting it back to Sage so it shows you as, those invoices that have been paid through our system. And then you've guessed it, we've got archived and report. So same idea, keeping all the history information relating to those payments, but now it all just lives in one platform. Okay, and finally, we have the expense management piece. So at this point, we talked about, how the frustrating challenges here when it came to expenses is collecting all of those, little receipts, making sure employees haven't lost it, they're not damaged, because we all have seen little credit card receipts and so on. They're pretty small, they can get crumpled up, they may not be in the best shape if you're holding on to them for the month. So what we've done here is we've created a separate mobile app that employees can use to take photos of their receipts as they incur their expense. Now, of course, I'm just on the web browser, but the experience remains the same, where I would have my photo taken here or uploaded. And what the employee would now be able to do is quickly categorize the expense. So as we talked about earlier in the deck, our system does have a way of categorizing the receipts and mapping that to a specific GL account. So it eliminates the time on your AP team and the accounting team to actually code each and every one of these receipts. So for instance, if I uploaded, a gas receipt or a taxi receipt, we can create different categories to reflect that. And you'd simply select the correct category. So let's say I did, for example, here, taxi. The user experience is pretty straightforward. I've categorized the bill. These fields and totals would be calculated for me or captured for me with the OCR technology, but it's pretty much done. I've created this receipt now, and it gets associated to a report. Now, at the end of the month, let's say I've collected 20 different receipts to this one report. Maybe I went on a conference, a business trip, I've taken some clients out for dinner, I have some taxi receipts, the hotel receipt, and so on. It would all be collected in a report. And once we're ready to submit it, we submit it to the finance and accounting team. And what happens is it actually pushes back down into the invoice module as we've covered. So the expenses and invoices are directly related. All expenses eventually flow into invoices and they follow the exact same process. So you would see all the bills lined up as the receipts lined up instead of your invoice bills. It'd just be those little receipts. So it's something like this. You'd have multiple. They'd be coded down below. And then you'll also have the option to submit them for approval, export it over to the accounting system, and then ultimately archived as well. You'll see here, we do encompass all things AP. We really focus on that 360-degree implementation, especially with Sage. So that was a quick overview of the system itself. And just jumping back over to the slides here, if you would like to see a more detailed or customized demonstration, I encourage you to visit the link there. So partners.beanworks.com/Oasis-April-2022 to sign up. And after you've attended a demo, we'll send you a $50 Amazon gift card as well. Terms and conditions do apply, but you can see that on the demo page as you sign up. Otherwise, at this time, we'll go ahead and dive into any questions. So if you do have any, please feel free to shoot them in the Q&A section.
Thanks, Tina. We do have a couple of questions, and I'd like to start with somebody who's kind of eager. How long does it take to get set up?
Oh yeah, for sure. So setup on average, we're seeing clients are fully set up, integrated, and trained anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks in total. And how we accomplish this is we set you up with a dedicated customer success manager and solutions expert from our team. So you have two main points of contact when you're going through the setup process. They'll walk you through the implementation of our Smart Sync tool, that is the tool that interacts with Sage and our system. So that tool that connects the two. They'll also walk you through the configuration, so mapping out the approvals, the users, and then finally training from start to finish using some real life examples.
Thank you. And an associated question, what kind of customer support is included with the platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. So again, you'll have those two main points of contact. So if you have issues specific to your account, you definitely reach out to them. Otherwise, support is always included. Even in the system itself, if I jump back here, you'll notice at the top, there's a Get Help section. This would bring up our live chat, our FAQs and articles, videos, and so forth to help you find out your answer. Otherwise, of course, if you can't, you can always give us a ring. We do have a ticketing system and an email system as well.
Okay, and I know this was covered, but can you reiterate what kind of payment methods are supported on this platform?
Yep, totally. So we support checks, meaning that we would cut it out, stamp it, mail it out on your behalf for you, so you don't have to deal with all of that paperwork or even getting it into a letterbox. We also support ACH and EFT, along with wires. And we have another program called Virtual VCC, which stands for Virtual Credit Card. So those are all the methods that we currently support.
Great. And how is the solution priced?
Yeah, great question. So a few things to consider are, which modules you'd be interested in using. So it's priced based on the feature set. So whether that means you're using just invoices, maybe it's invoices and payments. So consider the modules. Second component is based on the volume of AP transactions on a monthly basis. So is it, do we think we're doing 500 invoices monthly, 200? And then finally, there are certain add-ons. So if you wanted extra features like full-on OCR capture of all the data on your invoices, other details like integrating multiple companies, that may play a factor into the fee as well.
Great. It looks like that is the last of the questions. I'm dropping my email address into the chat window. So anybody who's attending today that is interested in that demonstration, you can reach out to me directly via email in the chat window, jody@oasisky.com. Falana is also going to be sending out the recording of the webinar via email tomorrow. And Falana, I believe that you're also going to include that link where they can register for the demonstration themselves and receive that Amazon gift card directly from Bean or Sage AP Automation.
That's correct.
Thank you, Falana. So I don't see any other questions coming in. So thank you so much, Tina. We really appreciate you taking your time today to take us through Sage AP Automation by Beanworks. Again, jody@oasisky.com is my email address. If you want to understand more about the solution or have a personal demonstration, please give me a ring or contact me via email. Thanks so much and have a great day.